So let's talk about the board, because we do have 2 board members here. So during your time on the board, and I believe, Miss Linda, you're a board emeritus, still active.
Our first board emeritus. Yes.
Rosie is the essential one.
Yes.
Forever, right? But yeah.
So what?
Never on the board.
Oh, you were on the board.
I was on the
beginning.
board before I was employed.
Well, there you go. See?
So we have 3 board members.
Everybody.
So what accomplishments were you most proud of when you were on the board? Or are they mostly the same, from having the grant funding or the playroom in the courthouse? Are those mostly those only, or are there different types of accomplishments that you're proud of just being on the board itself?
One of the things that Rosie and I worked on initially and took a lot of time was 2 booklets that we published. One was called What to Do If Your Child Has Been Sexually Abused, and the other was What to Do If Your Child Is Missing. And we wrote those booklets with help from other volunteers, and we got a grant from the Younger Women's Club to print them and publish them, and then we distributed those through the police department, through Child Protective Services, through counseling agencies like Family and Children's. And those booklets were used throughout my career at ECHO too.
Lucy and I were talking about this a little bit earlier, and I was saying that, you know, if we looked at them now, they would we'd be a little embarrassed, because this was all before social media.
They were
all
like
technology, so it's pretty archaic stuff. But this is the truth. I overheard a woman say, when your child goes missing, there's no handbook of what to do.
No.
Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, there needs to be a handbook of what to do.
Yeah.
Something that you can put your hand on immediately, and it's 1, 2, 3, you know. And so that's what we did.
And I'm not a board member, but just to kind of talk about where we are with missing kids, we don't have the handbook. I feel like I'm coming in with the bearer of bad news, but really it's the evolution of where we are now. Because again, I know, what it can feel like for a parent when a child goes missing. And so we were fortunate enough to have a funder to connect with us, and it was the Child's Victim Trust Fund. And they provided us money, and they had this nice, fancy fingerprinting system. And, you know, I mean, shine something bright in front of me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? And so I kept talking to the staff, and I was like, okay, so what are you all doing with this? And well, again, we're trying to make sure that parents have fingerprints of their children. I remember when I was in grade school, the schools used to do that automatically. Mm-hmm. And I found out that they were no longer doing that. And I said, you know what? This can be an area, again, that supports our mission, and a gap that we can fill for parents and adults to make sure that they have fingerprints of their kids, because that's one of the first things that the police department is going to ask. You know, do you have any identifiable, anything, you know, of the child that we can utilize? And so we now have a digital fingerprinting system where the parent can download an app, and all the fingerprints are readily available for the parent. And we still have what we call the old school, where you still can write out the kids' names and the ink strips and all of that. And we actually have a program that we have developed around missing kids for parents and adults. So again, if that incident happens, we're providing you with the what to do and who to call and where to call and all those types of things. So again, just carrying what you all have done, you know, in the earlier part of ECHO, and how do we continue to do that with the evolution of technology?
Right.
I think one of the things, there were several things as a board member, you know, that stand out to me. One was, you know, putting together some of the fundraisers over time, you know, because it's essential, and trying to raise our own donors, which is still, it's something important.
It's a constant challenge.
A constant challenge. It's still a challenge to rely less on just grants. And of course, now in today's environment, that's really a big issue because the grants are disappearing on the federal level, and the justice grants and the crime grants, and, which played the role, like you said, victims of crime. So really getting to the public, and, the fundraisers do that in a certain way, as well as the executive directors talking on TV when something happens. And the other thing, though, that's changed is Sonia and I looked at curriculums, because now there are curriculums, and using that word for, preventing child abuse, not just treating. And when we looked, I guess it was about 8 years ago, and we looked at several states that had begun to use so-called curriculums across the state, and we found this one in Florida from the Monique Burr Foundation that we looked at, and we had other people look at, and we thought, well, this is, pretty solid. And so after we looked at it and introduced it to the board, and the board said, yeah, let's go with this. And that's what we've been using. And so it really has given something that can be taken into the school classrooms, but they also have other parts, and they've even developed more recently something dealing with coaches and kids. As there's a growing awareness, that's always existed too in those relationships, the abusive behavior. And so, we still use that, and we evaluate it.
That's
Yes. Yeah. And the Monique Burr Foundation for Children, we are the only nonprofit in Louisville that is implementing that program. And I know one of the things that I had mentioned, because I grew up with stranger danger, and we know 90% of children that are abused by someone they know and trust. And the language kept coming to me, have kids to find trusted adults. And I was like, that doesn't align very well with me. And it was at that point in time that we adopted the Monique Burr curriculum that they used the word safe adults. And I said, you know what, that is really going to be a platform that I'm going to stand on, is I'm really changing that narrative of telling kids to find trusted adults, because we know that even those trusted adults have been those ones that have abused the children. And it's hard for kids, a first grader, to really define what trust looks like. But they definitely know what safe and unsafe situations look like. So we are in the process of trying to help people create this narrative of communicating with kids to find safe adults, and all of that. So, and then also the stranger danger, we base our program on 5 safety rules that can protect children either in a personal space or a digital space. That was something that, again, that I wanted to really expand on, universal strategies that can help kids. And then I got to thinking about it, not just kids, because our program now is pre-K to 12th grade. And I know when I came in, it was K through 12, but over the course of the years, we've seen where technology, again, has been an advancement, but we haven't done a very good effort of making sure that we're providing those protective factors for the 2-year-olds and the 3-year-olds and the 5-year-olds and things of that nature, because they can navigate those platforms. And so, again, we wanted to make sure that we are providing training for kids, age appropriate levels, making sure that they can walk away with something that they can remember also. So, yeah.
Yeah, that whole cyber world,
oh gosh,
didn't exist, when it started.
No.
The risks weren't the same.
Yes.
Going back to Tanya's question, I don't want to speak for Lucy, but I have to bring this up. Lucy's story, Lucy and her children's story, were an inspiration to the Blue Apple Players.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
Do you want to tell them that
Yeah.
story?
Yeah.
That's a good.
Yeah, because I can
Yeah,
say, listen, you got a lot of things in your lap
Yeah,
there.
I had a newsletter here about that. We approached the Blue Apple Players, which was a local theater group that did programs for children. And I went down and met with the two key people there and told them my children's story and asked if they couldn't do some sort of programming to teach children prevention of child abuse. And they came up with a play that they called No More Secrets. And it was based on what happened to my children.
Wow.
And they did No More Secrets in the schools for years. And it was a wonderful program. And at one point, they published the play. And when they published it, they dedicated it to my children, which was really special.
Yeah.
Yes, that was great.